and told he didn't want to have that conversation with her again. And everything was fine in this town for Florida Rose King. What does that say? What does that say? I'm going to say a couple other things and we're going to get ready to go. I want you to understand what we're dealing with. There is a something on YouTube called A Course of Fear. I didn't put it together, but it was put together by the anthropology department at Valdosta State University. You need to look at it. It talks about the Willie James Williams case, but more important to me than that was how fearful these people are to live in this town. Right. The average black man, if he's at least 50 years old and never been out of Valdosta, cannot look at a white man in the face when he's talking to him. Check, don't take my word for it. Watch it. Scary. We had 4 black councilmen at one time, 4 to 3. Now the law says that when you're in the majority, you rule. They could have gotten a black police chief. They could have gotten a black city manager. They could have gotten a black deputy city manager, a black assistant city manager. They could have acted like they won. But things didn't get blacker down there, they got whiter. Yeah, I know folks don't like when you talk like this. Listen to me.
Preach it.
Listen to it. When the blacks took charge, came to power in Augusta, they acted like it. When they came to power in Albany, they acted like it. When they came to power in Atlanta, they acted like it. When they came to power in Valdosta, they didn't act at all. Nothing has changed. In fact, in some instances, it got whiter.
And worse.
Let me tell you something that just happened. For years, we had a white, and I'm almost done. We had a white, chairman of the city school board. For years. We finally got it right. And guess what happened? After we got a black one, they voted to rotate. And the black ones on there raised their hand. Aye. Come on, man. But wait a minute. You know who the first person that got it, and they voted to give it to when they voted to rotate it? Gina who? You know who she is? She was the one person on there who was for consolidation. And the only one, at least that voted that way. And her husband just made the motion at the chamber to give $30,000 for this Huey effort again. What is the matter with us? Now, my wife told me, because of what happened in Toledo, I moved down here. I wasn't going to get involved in anything, I promise you. But I'm just going to live and travel, and, you know, God has been good to us and all that. Then the phone went. And then I discovered a man has to do what a man needs. I don't know where everybody else is. That's their business. But before anybody called me a civil rights leader or an activist, Jesus called me a preacher. Amen. And a real preacher is not motivated by what is politically expedient or socially acceptable or economically feasible. He is driven by what is morally right. He doesn't wait to see how it will read in the Valdosta Times in the morning. He wonders how it reads in the Bible tonight. No real ever leaves people where he finds them. His responsibility is convict and convert and move people from where they are to where they ought to be.
That's it.
Moses was a preacher. When he started preaching, the children of Israel were in Egypt in slavery. But when he got through preaching, they were in the wilderness on their way to the promised land. Dr. King was not some performer. He wasn't a religious entertainer. He was a preacher. And when he started preaching at the age of 26, we were riding on the back of the bus. But when he got through preaching at the age of 38, we were riding on the front of the bus. Now we were driving the bus, thinking about buying the bus. Close with this. I noticed that in football, don't know too much about it, but I know when the quarterback is on the sideline, just standing there with his helmet in his hand, nobody tackles him. Nobody criticizes him.
That's right.
Nobody praises him. He's just standing there. Just standing there. But when the coach points at him, he puts the helmet on his head and takes that ball in his hand. 11 men come after him with a sword.
That's right.
As long as he's on the sideline, he's irrelevant.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Break it down now.
Wait a minute. Something else about that quarterback. It's true that 11 men will go after him and try to take his head off when he gets the ball. But it's also true that if he doesn't get the ball, he can't score. They try to tackle him. He stiff bombs, sidesteps his way. But if you don't have the ball, you can't score. When I came to this time, I stood on the sideline for 3 years. Nobody wrote a letter about me. It went all over this country to try to stop me from preaching. Nobody ever called my house, claimed to be the Klan. And what was going to happen to me and scared my wife? Nothing happened. Till I got the ball in my hand, walked out on this field, and said, let's go. And then everything changed. I told my wife this morning, I don't know what's going to happen. She said, you're talking about marching against the police. I said, that's right. She said, you know that's never happened in the history of this town. I said, that's right, but there's always a first time. And I have to say to myself, Floyd Rose, if not you, who? If not now, Williams. If not now, where? So here we are. Let me be clear about something. This is just the beginning. We're going to get ready to walk, to drive. We're going to crisscross through the community with our lights on. We're going to blow our horns periodically. And we're going all the way over to Skeeter Parkway. There's a Skeeter factory. Skeeter Parkway is right there on the corner of Clay and Skeeter Parkway. We're going to assemble at the far end where that big circle is. And then we're going to march. Now this isn't a parade. By the way, Dr. King didn't lead parades. He led marches. And when you're marching, you're either marching for something or marching against something. You're not just out in the street walking. That's what they do in Valdosta to celebrate King's birthday. Excuse me. But we're marching. We're going to march. We got a banner, SCLC banner. And we're going to walk down Willoway to the house at the corner of Willoway and Continental, where the are we doing this? Well, there are conflicting, contradictory stories about what happened on the 1st of January, the early morning hours. Here's what we do know. That car, speedometer, was frozen at around 6 to 8 miles an hour. Question is, why would he be going that fast? He told me that the police were chasing him. That's what he told me. I went to see him in jail. He told me. There are other witnesses. And since they've been visited by the police, some of them are backing up. So we're going to march to assure them and everybody else that you don't have to be afraid of anybody. The community has your back. We also going to say then, and we want to say now, look, we don't want you to ever lie. You don't need to lie to the police. You don't need to lie on the police, but you also don't need to lie for the police. Now, when we're at the end of the march, we're going to have a news conference, and that's when we'll tell everybody what we're planning on doing in the mandate. You got any questions about process now? Anybody? So we'll know. Now, let me ask you this. Are there those of you here who've had problems with the police, in particular with a detective named Carl Dudley? Anybody? None of you? That's okay if you don't want to stand. I understand. I know this here. There have been, I've got 7 names in my office right now. Mother came to see me. I thought they would be here today. That's okay. We'll work. Yeah.
We're standing in for Tevin Martin, for Adriel Martin.
Yes.
That's my young brother.
Okay, you here.
For the incident at PLC.
I met with him in jail. And let me just read 11 and then we'll go. I meant to do this earlier.